According to reports, Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Jameis Winston is expected to be suspended for 3 games. This dates back to an allegation some years ago that he groped a Uber driver in Arizona. He reportedly grabbed an Uber driver's crotch. He was investigated for sexual assault. He was not charged, but the NFL has now suspended him, or is expected to suspend him, plans to suspend him for 3 games. Let me just talk. Look, there are two words we need to talk about here: judgment and justice. Okay? Let's just talk about judgment for a moment. Let's just talk about Jameis Winston. And if you would, I heard that Louis Riddick was on First Take earlier today talking about this. I'd like to hear that in just a moment here, but let me just lay this out. What is Jameis Winston doing? Who is Jameis Winston? I'm not here to talk to you in this moment about criminal culpability. I'm not really here to talk about guilt or innocence. I'm not here to talk about burden of proof. I'm not here to talk about whether or not you have been charged or convicted. I've talked about those kind of things consistently when it comes to everyone from Ray Rice to Greg Hardy to Ezekiel Elliott. I understand very well those concepts, and I think I put a great amount of importance on them when it comes to you being, kicked out of your job, suspended from your job, and certainly placed into jail. But when it comes to just who you are you? Your judgment, Jameis Winston's judgment, is under big scrutiny here. Big review. Let's just review the history really quick. Jameis Winston was investigated for rape while he was at Florida State. He was then cited on stealing crab legs from a grocery store in 2014. It was some weird incident where he was yelling obscenities on campus. He was suspended 1 game for that, whatever, okay. And now you have this. And I've read other people talk about this. If I were ever, let's just set aside whether or not Jameis Winston did any of this stuff, right? Let's play a hypothetical. Let's assume that the 2013 incident, the rape allegation, is false. Let's assume it didn't happen, that Jameis Winston was falsely accused. Hypothetically, we're going to play this out. If I were ever hypothetically accused falsely of a sexual assault, do you know how I would behave going forward? I would be, first of all, terrified. I would have all of my guard up. I would never find myself in a situation that I could ever be falsely accused again. I've talked to people, listen to me, I have talked to people, famous people of much more consequence than I, who say, I will never find myself in an office alone with anyone of the opposite sex. I will never have a closed-door meeting. I will never allow room service to come into my room. I will never be in a situation where I could ever be falsely accused again. These are hypotheticals. I'm not saying Jameis is innocent of any of this stuff. I'm saying if I were ever falsely accused, I would never even be in a situation like that again where I could have it again. Now, if he's guilty, that changes everything, right? And that's where we are today, because Jameis Winston's judgment is crap. Jameis Winston's judgment to be in these situations is up for absolute harsh scrutiny. But to get a little more insight on it and what's going to go down here before this suspension goes into effect, I've got Josina Anderson on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, getting triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Hi, Josina.
Hi, Will. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you.
I'm glad to have you.
Yeah.
So first of all, I just heard in the bump in there as we were playing the cut, one thing, and I'm not sure who it was that said it, but Jameis is going to have to show some things before the season starts for this suspension to be 3 games. I read somewhere that there's going to be some kind of expectation, some hurdles, some standards he's going to have to satisfy. So what do you know about that, Josina? Is this not fixed at 3 games? It could be worse?
Well, we know our Adam Schefter reported that the expectation right now is that it will be a 3-game suspension. There are some mitigating factors that could make it higher or could make it lower. Now, post what happened with Ray Rice, the NFL instituted an amendment to the personal conduct policy where anything dealing with domestic violence, sexual assault, or what have you should at least or may at least have a minimum of 6 games. So this is at least half of that. So that illuminates that there are some mitigating circumstances to even begin with, whether that has to do with how much proof there is. This appears to be a he said, she said, and somebody else was in the car, he said, version of what's happening. I haven't heard that there's any visual evidence, audio evidence. So, that makes you have to lean to one side or the other in terms of the veracity of it and who you believe. So those are mitigating circumstances. Perhaps failure to report. What did you disclose to the club? What did you not disclose to the club or the league? That's mitigating circumstances. History, past, how you came into the league, mitigating circumstances. And so because there is a history here, I'm sure that if there's been any previous discussion, and of course we're still waiting for an official announcement from the league, that it makes sense for them to put some, standards, targets in there for behavior that he may, assuming that he did do this, because we know that, again, we're underlining these are allegations. Jameis Winston has said he has not done this. He has said it is false. We have not heard another statement from him since that via a release or via an interview. But that being the case, Will, and you and I were talking about this in the break, is that the league is still interested in protecting the shield. And so whether you did do it, there's still an allegation out there. There's still an accusation out there that they still find negative. And so to that end, even if that's just the minimum, I would not be surprised that they would institute some types of things that they would like to see him still attain and achieve to make the league feel better, to make the club feel better, to make the fan base feel better, that he has a firm understanding of what he should be doing, which, again, if this hasn't happened, I guess he feels like he has been doing since he's come into the league from everything that happened in college, and that he knows how he should be conducting himself in the National Football League.